And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. Today, I'm joined by Josh and Erica. Happy Friday to everyone. We have a good show prepared for you today. So I didn't have as good as time as people in the Bronx because that Trump rally looked unbelievably large and fun. The energy was high from every video I saw. First, a lot of questions come to mind why Trump would be going to the deep blue Bronx and how many people were there. Erica, do you have any details on that event we saw in the
Oh my
Bronx?
gosh, do I? Yeah. So this was a lot of fun. We know why he's in South Bronx, right? Because he has been tied up in court and he can't really leave the city. He only gets Wednesdays and evenings off. So his campaign has decided to, okay, we'll campaign in New York City. So they go down to the South Bronx, which is predominantly Hispanic, very working class. This is not like Fifth Avenue Saks or anything like that. They expected, this was Fox News reported that they initially planned for 3,500 people to attend, and over 25,000 supporters showed up on Thursday instead. So this like even blew the Trump campaign's planning out of the water. And I think we've talked about this before, but one of my favorite lines coming out of it from Trump, and it kind of encapsulates, I think, why he went to the South Bronx. He goes, "If a New Yorker can't save America, who can?" And the crowd just goes wild. Like these
Such a
people
good
are
line.
crazy. It was so good. I don't know. Do we want to pull up AOC had her own theory why he was in the Bronx? I don't know if we want to pull that up there.
This is just a
This is
classic case of
yeah.
jinxing.
Yeah.
Like I know we're Catholic, but as a child, I used the term jinx a lot. She commented, "God is good" with a prayer emoji over a rainy Bronx on May 23rd. This was before the event, basically saying that it was going to be a muddy mess for the Trump rally. And boy, did she jinx that, man. I mean, it was packed.
She sure did. Oh my gosh, it was great. Byron Donald showed up. He gives a speech. Big guy. He's like throwing MAGA hats out into the crowd, going, "Bronx is MAGA country now." There he goes. I love
Which, I
this.
mean, look,
Yeah.
it might be in that little neck of the woods of South Bronx. And I think it's fun. I mean, people are going all over
It's
the place
fun.
with this. Like, some of the people are like, yeah, he can win New York. I mean, dude,
Never.
he's
Bring
not
us down to
gonna win
earth,
New York.
Josh. Bring us down to earth.
Okay, he's not going to win New York. This is what I like to tell people. What I think it's great. It's a good thing to do this event there because you know what? There's like, 15 million people in the New York City metro area.
19,
So
yeah.
you're going to be able to get a lot of people. Even in the Bronx, there was like 70,000 people that voted for Donald Trump. So getting a bunch of people at a rally, isn't it? So you think, oh, are you being thumbs down on it? No, go for it. I mean, do it. He's not good. If he wins New York, he's going to win 45 states. Okay, people. So like, it's not like this is a great use of time in that sense. But as Erica said, he's there anyway. He's in court, then just stop off and hold out a rally and get people excited. And the point is, it's a different campaign than it was 20, 30 years ago. They could cut up all these clips, share the videos online with everybody, and it's a totally diverse crowd. He can show people like, look, like Hispanics love me, immigrants love me, all this stuff. So it's very smart for him to do this politically. But I mean, is it going to change the election results in terms of who wins the state of New York? Not really.
Right,
I mean,
but it's larger
I guess
than that.
there's a chance he could win New Jersey, but
He's sending a message, as you're saying.
Yeah.
He's sending a message.
absolutely.
I think even his messaging of the speech and the people he brought up, like there was a line that he had basically saying, it doesn't matter if you're white, brown, or I think direct quote, whatever the hell you are, we're all American. We're all going to pull together and we're going to make the country great again. And I mean, if you juxtapose that rhetoric with what we heard from Biden at Morehouse College was America's been horrible to black people. You've been held down by the government, and it's terrible. You've been trodden upon. And honestly, hearing Trump say that just instantly came to my mind. I'm like, I cannot remember the last time we've had kind of an organic Biden moment talking about unity. It feels like there's just been constant divisive, you're bad, these people are bad, we're good. And just to hear someone come up and say like, yeah, we are actually all American and we are going to pull together, and to hear the cheers after, it kind of felt right. I don't have like a super smart thing to say about this. It just felt right. It feels like this is what presidents should be saying.
Yep. It sounded presidential. The Biden Morehouse. I think you nailed it, Tom, because like that kind of what we're getting out of the Biden campaign is this identity politics rhetoric all the time with, you are this group, you are a victim, we're going to bail out the victims, we're going to bail out college students, we're going to pay for, versus Trump, who's just like, New Yorkers have something called common sense, and this is the old-fashioned common sense that I plan to bring back to the White House. We're going to make it affordable. He goes through all the things that like actually affect normal people. And yeah, it was a refreshing moment. And I do love it for cutting up the clip. It's just classic Trump, like, thumbing the established media. Axios's coverage. And I mean, yeah, they're pretty leftist, right? Their opening line was, former President Trump's rally on Thursday drew a crowd that looked very different from the typical MAGA flock. And that's what they noticed first, which is exactly what he intended them to say when they covered this.
Yeah, exactly. Because, when he goes to somewhere
satisfying.
like, if he goes to somewhere in the middle of Wisconsin, it's like, oh, typical. They're all just a bunch of white people that support Trump.
White Christian nationalists.
It's Wisconsin. Yeah. Like, all the people that support Biden are pretty much white people, too. Like, hello, have you been through the other parts of the country? I mean, like, sometimes you wonder about these journalists. Again, real Americans in the wild,
Yeah, even their bullet points here, Erica, we have Trump's GOP is becoming more working class and a little more multiracial. Yeah. And then they have Democrats are gaining with more well-educated voters in the suburbs.
Axios clues in. Welcome, guys. So this is my favorite, though. They interviewed this lady, Sabrina Dixon, 28, a security guard from the North Bronx, who attended the rally with her husband. They asked her, do you think Trump is racist? And she goes, I don't think he's racist because I grew up watching Donald Trump on TV on WrestleMania. We all loved him. I was like, that's awesome. That was my favorite. That's great. So thanks, Sabrina.
True. I think he shaved someone's head on WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a good time.
The
golden years, right? Oh,
but did you guys see what Jeff Timmer tweeted from the Lincoln Project?
Oh, please.
And this is kind of goes back
the
to
Hitler photo?
It
was like.
He said, pick a Trump rally in the Bronx, and it's a picture of a Nazi rally, which, guys, anytime you draw a big crowd, it's like, so we're just going to compare it to a Nazi rally? Doesn't the Lincoln Project want to be considered like serious journalism or serious historians, and you got people throwing around Nazi accusations? Is like kind of wild, especially of the admittedly multiracial, working class, very well-rounded crowd that we saw in the Bronx, and you're getting Nazi rally thrown. I mean, these people are just so unserious.
Boy, as my friend said, no one's ever made this comparison before between Trump and Hitler. Thank you so much for this insight. I had never occurred to me. Maybe I should do something about this. I know I'll support Biden now, even though if we remember, Biden made that presidential speech and he was screaming at the top of his lungs and calling his opponents the enemy of America, and it was like dark set with red lights and like kind of felt a little Hitler-y.
Like a Hitler
that was Joe
No,
Biden.
I distinctly remember that speech, yeah. And it was going back to the unity point. We have one guy here saying that everyone's going to pull together. It does not matter what race you are. We're all Americans. If a New Yorker can't save America, then no one can. And the other side is throwing around Nazi rally pictures. I can't think of a more hypocritical.
Well, at least they don't just the far left. They don't just divide. At least while they divide people and use identity politics and pit us against each other, class warfare, all that envy, they do that while still saying, "Hey, we're the ones in favor of unity."
Right.
Yeah, they don't want unity. They don't want unity. They want conformity. They want total conformity, which is not. It's different from unity, right?
Classic case of projection, Erica. Is there any, do you have a psychological
classic? Yeah, let me psychoanalyze Joe Biden. I don't know if there's anything left there to analyze, but
so also Donald Trump got 2 high-profile endorsements. One was actually from President Biden, as he misspoke during a speech saying that Donald Trump's the only one that can save the country, and then the second was from Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley, from what seemed like she wasn't going to do so, has kicking and streaming said she's going to vote for Donald Trump. She did end up saying that he needs to go earn the votes of my supporters, all dozens of them, and make sure they come over to his coalition. Trump did say he was happy to take that on. I'm curious, how many of these Nikki Haley voters are really serious conservatives to begin with. But interesting from Nikki Haley that she would now come along.
I think you have to say at this point, Tom, that Donald Trump is more gracious and magnanimous than even I am, because I got to tell you, if I were Donald Trump, I'd be like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Nikki Haley just endorsed for me. Unendorse. I don't want her. I don't want her. That's probably not.
That's why
he probably is
that's why you'll
choosing the
not be a
wiser
great
path.
politician.
That's why you won't be
You're
a
going to really
president.
struggle.
I don't know. Nikki Haley's in the category of her own. She really is pretty atrocious. But they looked at it like Harry Enton was talking about this over on CNN, and he made the surprising point. Actually, I was a little bit surprised by this, where it showed the facts and figures of incumbent presidents and how they perform in their primary. And Joe Biden is doing worse. He's like 87% of Democrats. You know, he's an incumbent. He's running for a re-election. He did worse than Trump did in 2020. He did worse than Obama did in 2012. All the different previous presidents, you know, as they're running for re-election in their own party, their primary vote, they usually get, 92, 94, percent, right? You would think. Biden's is lower. It's like 87%. So there's a good chunk of like 13% of Democrats coming out to vote in the primary to not vote for Biden. Now you look on this side. Now, technically, Donald Trump is not the incumbent, obviously, right? I mean, even though he served once as president, but he's getting a higher percentage of the vote now that he's locked up the nomination, essentially. Because everyone, for a few weeks there, the media was like, oh, Trump's having a problem. Look at how Nikki Haley did in this, very blue state amongst Republicans in this blue state. And this sounds a little crazy, but in fact, actually, Trump is doing better than other candidates who have, Mitt Romney was getting a lower percentage of the vote, even though it was pretty obvious, wrapped up, So Trump is doing better than expected. Biden is doing worse than expected. And these kind of, it sounds like math nerd stuff, but it's just one more data point that points to Biden's going to have a tough time to get his coalition together and win it in November. It's going to be a close race, but it's still he's having difficulties.
It's a good thing to add, because I think you see the kind of flashy stuff with the Bronx rally, and it's like just on a pure energy, the eyeball test. I would love to see Biden do a rally of that magnitude in the Bronx. I don't think it's going to happen. Paired with those numbers that you're talking about on a pure politics nerd precedent, you pair all this with a pretty impressive fundraising month for the Trump campaign as well. It seems like you kind of got this wave of momentum. The Republicans are kind of finally coalescing behind one candidate, Trump, which maybe there's questions if that was ever going to happen. Seems like it's happening now. It's going to be really interesting to see going into this next couple of months, because there is a long time till November. We always say that a lot of things can happen, but it's sure looking like a wave right now. So
I don't know about a wave, but Biden's definitely running into headwinds.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I want to say, before we move any further, first off, we have two people first live. What's up, Elizabeth? Two Elizabeths.
Hey, Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth. Thank you
All
for joining
right.
the live show. We do this live show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11. Thank you guys for coming on. It's a lot of fun to interact with the chat. We've got some questions coming up for you guys. But first, I have the first copy I've had in my hands of CatholicVote's new book, For God, Country, and Sanity. We're going to put it up nice and close to the
I love that.
camera
Love
here.
that cover
Bang.
art.
Cool cover art. We got
Very
two of the
cool.
authors here with us today, Josh and Erica. If you guys want to find out how Catholics can save America, it's time to order the book. You can check it out. We're going to have that link in the bio. I have not gotten to read it yet. No one gave me an advance copy, so this is going to be like Christmas. I get to experience it for the first time. I assume it's pretty good if you guys were involved.
It's excellent, I have to say. And I keep telling people, I'm like, this is my favorite thing I've ever done with Catholic Vote. Super fun. Oh my gosh, we have an author in the live chat. Hi, Tom McCluskey. He has a great chapter on pro-life America after Dobbs and the way forward for the pro-life movement, which
AKA
is
Tinfoil Tom.
absolute. Yeah, Tinfoil Tom. He's
Some of you
here.
may know.
But also a serious thinker when it comes to pro-life policy. So he
Yes.
check
Great
him
head
out
of
in the
hair,
book.
too.
Yeah. He and Josh are both channeling the tinfoil hat.
Hey, the good Lord made a few perfect heads. The rest he covered with hair.
That was
Oh,
good.
man.
That's
good. Awesome. But yeah, thank you to everyone joining today. It looks like we got a lively crowd in the chat. So thank you for coming on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff.
And
Not
check
bad
out
asking for that.
go to CatholicVote.org, check out our store. There's lots of great merch, but you also can get that book. God, country, and sanity. You got to check it out.
Word. Okay, so we have next session. There's a few things that really jumped off, and we actually pushed this back because Erica did a little bit more deep dive into this. We have some cover-ups when it comes to immigration, but I think one thing that really frames this conversation well, I don't know if you guys saw this video, but Fox News was at the border and they were interviewing people crossing because it's just happening all the time. And they got these guys from Turkey who spoke English. And I mean, you just got to listen, just pure listen to this interview with these guys. Just came across the border.
Did you have to pay a cartel?
Yes,
How much?
around 10,000.
10,000?
Yes. In fact, the American people is right, completely true. Who come into this country, they don't know. Well, okay, I'm good, but how if they're not good? How they're killer, psychopath, else? No guarantee of that. Why, like no security, no security check, no background check.
No security check, no background check. You're worrying about who's crossing the border?
Yes. They are, of course, me because I'm like, people are not look normal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So these guys care more about border security than our own politicians.
Exactly.
They're like, it was so easy to come across the border. It makes me nervous. Who else is here?
Yeah. So we found out a couple of guys who are here because of an incident that happened at Quantico at the Marine Corps base. And this is great. There's so much cover up going on here. It's nuts. But I want to just do a shout out to local news. Shout out to local news. Potomac Local News. They uncovered the story, some crazy journalism. And if these local guys had not dug into this, we still would have no idea that this and several other incidents happened. So here's what went down. On May 3rd, so this month, 2 men in a box truck tried to force their way onto Quantico Marine Corps base. They came up to the barrier. They were stopped by the guards, the checkpoint, and they just kept driving right through. Eventually, they were stopped a couple of barriers down. And nobody knew anything about this. So on May 10th, Potomac Local News publishes this story. Good job, guys. They reported that at the time, they knew that inside the truck, there was at least one Jordanian foreign national. And he recently crossed the southern border into the U.S. We don't know what the source was for this information, but because they can't tell us. And one of the occupants is on the U.S. terrorist watch list. Quantico would not confirm the information on May 10th at the time, but we do know the men were turned over to ICE, right? So immigration. So basically they were here illegally for sure. They were definitely 2 Jordanian nationals as confirmed. Quantico did not issue a formal statement until May 16th. So this is almost a week after the story breaks. The top brass finally come out and say, we've dealt with the situation, but no other details forthcoming. The Quantico incident, the story continues though. This incident mirrors others at military installations across the U.S. and the White House, which have raised concerns in security protocols and the safety of personnel. And it goes on to list 4 other attacks that happened between March and May of 2024. So why aren't we hearing about these? Any theories, guys?
Maybe because we have a media that is a total piece of garbage.
Yeah, the stenographers of the
Dishonest.
regime said no. Not
Again, this is
interest.
where 2 different things. The mainstream media, we keep thinking the purpose of the media is to faithfully and accurately describe what's going on in the world so we can be informed citizens and make judgments about how we should govern our country. That's not the case. That's not the purpose of the media. We keep thinking, so we have to remind ourselves this. What is the purpose of a system? And I mentioned this once before, and I really want to hammer this point again. There's a very famous British theorist. His name was Stafford Beer. He made the point, the purpose of a system is what it does, not what it claims to do, not what it obviously fails to do all the time. So if you think the purpose of the mainstream media is to inform all the citizens of this country about what's really going on, and you're like, why do they keep failing at that? Because that's not what their point. That's not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to inform us all. They're trying to brainwash us. They want us to have a certain viewpoint. So they're not trying to make sure that we're critical thinkers and knowing what's going on in the country effectively. By that same token, you would think The Border Patrol. The purpose of the Border Patrol is to, what is it now? Right. Control the border. That's got to be what the border control is about. Control the border, right? Not under the Biden administration. The purpose of a system is what it does, not what it claims to do. The purpose of the Biden administration's Border Patrol is to let illegals into this country. That's what they want to do. That is what they want to do. So stop saying this doesn't make any sense. Why are they letting everyone into the country? The Border Patrol isn't supposed to do that. Under the Biden administration, the Border Patrol is supposed to let illegals into this country because that's what they want. The purpose of a system is what it does, not what it claims to do.
So that would explain then why Biden is using the Department of Justice to sue Oklahoma is the most recent of three. So they're currently suing Texas, Iowa, and Oklahoma for enforcing laws that their state Congress has passed to basically punish people living in their state illegally. So
And everyone's like, why are they suing it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because the purpose of the Biden Justice Department is to do what it's already doing.
So
It's attacking states who are trying to enforce the border.
So, yeah, it would make a state crime punishable up to 2 years in prison to live in the state without legal immigration status. The Justice Department is saying that the Oklahoma statute violates the U.S. Constitution and is asking the court to declare it invalid and bar the state from enforcing it.
So we have a
reasonably-
Biden Justice Department that's punishing states for enforcing our immigration laws, right?
Yes.
Right.
We have a Justice Department that is attacking pro-lifers like Mark Hawk, right?
Right.
Yes.
We have a Justice Department that is letting people illegally into this country in waves of humanity. And we have a Justice Department that's not really prosecuting, violence against their churches. It's almost like it's on purpose. Like the purpose of a system is what it does. That's your lesson. Forget what you learned in civics class in that cute little Schoolhouse Rock video. Here's real politics, okay? If the Justice Department, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. They are doing what they're supposed to be doing in their minds. This is what they want. It's not an accident. It's not like they're Keystone Cop idiots. They want this. This is the result they want.
I think
There's no point in claiming they're feeling.
I think we need a new Schoolhouse Rock, like just maybe the Daily Wire can make it or something, or
What
maybe
do you mean?
CatholicVote
Mercer
can
should make it. Yeah.
Mercer should make it because
Mercer
like
Rock.
the whole the pronouns video has to be remade as well, right? We've got the bill on the hill and then the pronouns. We just need to update those.
Wait, what video are you talking about? There's a pronouns video, Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah. Have you watched the grammar ones? There's like the verbs. There's conjunction, junction. What's your function?
I know that
was my
one.
favorite.
That's
Yeah,
actually
conjunction,
really
junction.
catchy, really.
That
And then
was
there's the
bar.
pronouns
Yeah.
one. The pronouns replace nouns.
Conjunction Junction had some serious 70s funk going with it.
Conjunction Junction was a bop
What's
for sure,
your
no question.
function?
I think I was watching VeggieTales probably instead. Probably
Which
explains
explains
a
your
lot.
grammar.
Yeah,
No, just
exactly.
kidding. All right, Pogo.
Jeez,
Shots
I'll take that.
fired.
It's Friday.
take
It's
that.
Friday. I'm feeling spicy.
Spicy Friday. But we're going to bring it up now with a little bit of good news. So, a second miracle attributed to Blessed Carlo Acutis.
I
Now,
love this.
on record during this meeting, bad Catholic. I was like, is it bad that I don't really care about this? Yes, I answered my own question. It is bad because I went to go do a little bit more digging on Carlo Acutis, and this guy is the man. Like, I don't understand. You read this guy's life. I'm like, he's 15. He's cooler than I'll probably ever be. So, so just a little bit of background on those.
Man, or how much he loves Jesus. Man, I
of the
love it.
guy, Carlo Acutis. So he's born in 1991. He would be the first millennial saint. So he died in 2006 of leukemia, age 15. He was Italian. He's known as a gamer. He liked very popular video games, I think like Pokemon and a few others. So maybe the first gamer saint. But he was most well known for his love of the Eucharist and creating a website documenting all the Eucharistic miracles in the church. He was really a whiz with computer software, computer coding. And he also is responsible for basically reconverting his parents. This really cool story of, I think they were saying in
love it.
Italy
That's awesome.
that basically catechists for kids often are younger. So he was one of the catechists for his like youth group basically. And they were just talking about how holy this kid was. And his parents, I think they were pretty secular. Then when they had him, he basically brought them back in, which is pretty amazing. And then I think one of the first miracles, I'm not sure if this was an actual miracle attributed to him, but he passed away and his mom couldn't get pregnant again. And then 4 years from the day of his death, she had twins.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
pretty amazing story. So his body, I think there's debates over whether or not it's incorrupt. I don't think there's an official statement as to whether or not it is. I've seen pictures. He looks pretty darn incorrupt to me, but I'm not sure that's verified yet. He's dressed in his Nikes and blue jeans. I think this is potentially, oh no, that's an official photo. One of our, Rosie, she was on the show last week, had a picture that we're not sure is licit or not. But good for you, Rosie, for grabbing that.
Yeah, Rosie.
No, but just like about the Eucharistic thing, and I just want to help people have a little context for that. You know, the internet was still kind of new, you know, when he was contacting people. I mean, new in a sense, like it's nothing like it was today. In the year 2004, 2005, or whatever, he's communicating with people all over the world. I mean, here's this 14, 13-year-old kid, and he's like, I heard there was a Eucharistic miracle in Buenos Aires. So he's asking for information. He's asking for photos. And he's talking with people all around the world, and he's putting together these, you know, slides, these panels, and that his exhibition on the Eucharistic miracles has been around the whole world. It got approved by the Vatican. We had it up here in Petoskey. Shout out, we still have it if you'd like to come on by sometime. And I love it. And then after that, he started one on apparitions of Our Lady, all the different places where there's apparitions around the world. Some of them, I'm like, I hadn't heard of that one. That's kind of neat. And he passed away before he could finish that. And so his mother actually picked up and finished it with some other helpers and volunteers. But there's a whole website dedicated to him and getting these exhibits out to, you know, all around the world. And they do it, you know, just by donation. They're really just about spreading the word. So I think I love him. I love him pieces. And you start reading about his life. You're, like you say, super holy. And you read his quotes and it's just like, wow. I mean, this is kind of the profound stuff you expect from somebody twice his age.
Totally.
Just amazing.
Not 12-year-old.
And like you say, it's the reverse of Augustine and Monica, where he had Monica, the mother, praying for her boy for 20 years, and then he finally converts. So in this case, it's the boy praying for the mom. That's just so cool. So
Yeah.
I think he should be the patron saint of the internet. No offense to Isidore, who's a farmer who had like an index or whatever. This is a guy
Wait, is
who
he
used
actually?
the internet.
Yeah.
Saint
Yeah, I
Isaac,
mean, whatever. You can have more than one patron, by the way, though, so we're not
That's
going to
true.
let that sweat. So
Okay.
Carlo Acutis, patron of the internet. I'm calling it.
I like it.
I saw that he, and I don't see this very often. So my confirmation saint was Saint Tarcisius, and he said he had a special devotion to Tarcisius because Tarcisius he died for the Eucharist, but not much known about the young Roman saint died when he was a kid too. So I was like, oh, I saw that he picked that one up. That was cool. So yeah, traveling around the world, second miracle attributed to him on the way to sainthood. Very exciting.
Yeah,
Very
along
proud.
with Pier Giorgio Frassati, right? We've got two
Wait,
young
what's going
men.
on there?
So he had another miracle approved as well, I believe. So we've got two young men who just both Italian. So there you go. They're gonna hopefully hit the altar at the same time. Wouldn't it be cool if they were canonized on the same day? That'd be kind of killer. But
Yeah,
anyway.
they both have a connection to Turin as well. But like with Pier Giorgio Frassati, it's like, you know, he's very wealthy. And people are like, why do you ride third class on the train? He's like, I ride third class because there is not a fourth class. I mean, the guy's just like, what? He's just so humble. I love him. That was great.
I think Acutis' family was pretty wealthy as well. Both his parents worked. I think they were business owners. I think he was actually born in London. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, born in London, that's
but
right. Although he's
grew up
Italian.
in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Italian.
Shout out to the Italians, man. Great food.
Yeah.
Great people.
So yet another reason to go to Assisi because he's
Seriously.
there. He's in
I would
Assisi.
love to go to Italy, man.
You'll
Be so
get there,
cool.
Pogo. You'll
One
get
day.
there. Yep.
It's awesome.
One day. But all this attention on the Eucharist. So we want to bring up an example. So I saw this and it was covered we just gave the shout out to local news. This was covered very poorly by local news, in my opinion. And there's been some more write-ups now. So there's something that happened in Orlando. There was an altercation between a priest defending the Eucharist from someone trying to take it. And I think this is a good story for us to cover more in depth properly from the perspective of Catholics. But even just as an awareness, like there are people out there that are crazy and will desecrate the Eucharist if you're not careful. So, Erica, what was going on in Orlando? If we could set the record straight there.
Yeah, sure. So this happened at St. Thomas Aquinas Church in St. Cloud, actually near Orlando. And Father Fidel Rodriguez, who's the celebrant of the Mass, he was forced to defend the host this past Sunday from a woman who was obviously trying to desecrate it. She, still unnamed, she attempted to receive the Eucharist at the 10 a.m. Mass, but seemed unaware of the requirements given by the church, such as like, you shouldn't be in a state of mortal sin. You should fast for an hour before, and should believe in the transubstantiation of the host. Those are basic requirements, but her body language and behavior going up to receive, it was clear to the priest that she was not prepared at all, or even a believing Catholic, as later events proved. So she returned for a second Mass and again went up to receive. And when Father was placing the host directly in her mouth, which is something priests will do, to prevent sacrilege, she actually put her hand into the ciborium behind the host that he was giving her, grabs a fistful of Christ, of the Eucharist, and broke several, seemed to be crumbling them in her hand and trying to get away with this fistful of Jesus Christ. He tried to stop her and eventually resorted to biting her hand to get her to let go.
Justified.
Yeah,
Hero.
totally justified. And it's pretty clear she was not, this was not devotion at all. She wasn't like, I love Jesus so much, I need all of Jesus from this morning. Because later in her report, she stated, Father wouldn't give me the cookie. I don't know if it was the way I was dressed or if it was what I was like. Maybe she was
Or maybe it's
afraid
because you
to-
ask a question like that.
Yeah, like, so.
Or maybe it's because you
He's
think
our
it's-
Lord. He's not a cookie, you
Man.
idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
And then I saw the local news orgs were trying to turn it into somehow like an LGBTQ thing. It's like, oh my gosh, just like
yeah, like
such
she
an
was
eye roll on that. 'Cause she said
non-binary.
maybe it was because I was dressed or because she was with a woman or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of besides the point, buddy. But I think they were. I don't know if they're pressing charges. I think the diocese was good. They defended him and said he's bound by duty to protect, as they should.
That was awesome. We could
Yeah.
never let's not underplay that, because it could have easily had such a kind of weak toast response or whatever. Because she's suing the diocese
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the parish or whatever. And so the diocese is like, no, actually, Father Rodriguez was simply attempting to prevent an act of desecration. Good.
Yeah, he is bound by duty to protect the Eucharist, and super strong. So hero, we're
As he
looking
is.
for heroes
I mean,
of the month for May. That could be one of them.
I've witnessed some weird stuff. Like that's the intra-Catholic debate of like whether or not you receive on the tongue from a purely practical standpoint, outside of reverence and all the other stuff. There's a reason for it. I mean, if you give Eucharist to someone on the hand and they slide it in their pocket, typically that's not going to be used for the right purpose. And I've heard of examples of Satanists sneaking stuff to do horrible things to the Eucharist. And so I just think this was a bizarre. I'm so glad that the diocese backed him up. But even from a parishioner standpoint, like if you see weird stuff, like if you see things that are off, they probably are off, and always say something. Always say something to a priest. Always say something after Mass, just because like the damage that could do to our Lord Jesus Christ is unthinkable even to me. So it's just good to be aware. It's out there.
I agree with you, and it's a reminder. Like, do we really believe this is Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should, because it is. And I've not seen any altercations or anything crazy like this, but I did once. Sometimes people can be a little even flippant. Like they go through the motions, as you say. That's one of the reasons why. I mean, do you have to have communion rails? No. Does it have to be on the tongue? No. But if you do certain things like that, you get less messiness. It's just you can control and make sure. Okay, we are treating this like it is different because it is Jesus. And I remember one time someone was walking and part of our Lord fell on the floor. I like run over and make sure someone else doesn't stomp on it. I'm like, and I brought it to the priest. But I mean, come on, people, just.
Yeah, we were at St. Mary. So St. Mary's in New Haven. It's it's a little bit of a destination parish because we have the body of Blessed Michael McGivney's buried in the back. So, and it's a beautiful Gothic
church
in the middle of Yale's campus. And so we get people coming through. This was last spring. This woman, I was kneeling after receiving communion, and this woman goes up to the deacon and he hands her the Eucharist, and she kind of takes it like overhand shot instead of the underhand receiving it. So she takes it and she like nibbles a little bite out of the host and just wanders back away, and the deacon didn't see it. So I'm like, I get up out of the pew. I like trip over 3 of my kids and I chased her down the aisle. And like 2 other guys got up from the back and they go towards her and they're like, you have to consume the whole host, consume the whole host. I'm like, eat it, eat it. And it wasn't the most graceful intervention. Like, I wasn't.
So what? I love it.
Yeah.
It was this jarring moment of, oh my gosh, she bit Jesus. It was this weird, I don't know. That sounds so sacrilegious when I say it.
He's our Lord. You don't treat him like a snack.
Right.
Exactly. And she afterwards,
It's not a cookie.
after mass was over, I went up and talked to her. I was like, I hope you didn't feel like I was attacking you. And she's like, oh, I'm not Catholic. It's just everyone was doing it. And so I thought I should take it. And I was like, let me talk to you. And so we actually talked to her about RCIA and how she could become Catholic, and she backed slowly away out the doors. And I don't know if she'll ever come back, but
Jeez.
planting seeds.
Well, it's one of those times where it's like, okay, so the Vatican has these signs outside the church that shows like, here is considered to be appropriate attire for attending mass, and it shows
Right.
like shirts that not tank tops for men or women, both like basic kind of standards. And I feel like especially for churches that not every church is going to need it, because for the most part, hey, look, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't really have tourists. I get it, but places that are more bigger cities, that might be helpful to have those kind of same things, and also like talk a little blurb about the Eucharist. If you're not Catholic, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I'm at a lot of
That would be
weddings. I'm at a lot of weddings, and there's been a lot of priests actually. I've been impressed for the most part. Maybe it's just the quality of weddings we're going to, but that have done a good job explaining. Like, everyone's welcome, of course, but like this is the tradition. This is what we believe about the Eucharist. Unless you have X, Y, and Z, come forward. I'll give you a blessing, but won't receive. So I think all good thoughts. We have though. If you're ready, we have our first Ask Josh.
I'm
segment,
excited.
As many have been waiting for. So, Josh, we have a question for you. Starting off.
Oh boy.
What is your favorite American war movie? And from the mailbag, I am the mother of 3 boys, ages 10, 12, and 15. When is an appropriate time to introduce them to the great films about American history, like Last of the Mohicans and The Patriot? What is your favorite American history film?
Well,
Very
my personal favorite is Patton. I mean, again, I love the guy. In real life, he had a squeaky voice. In the movie, he was portrayed by a guy with a very gravelly voice. And so that's just a reminder. If I ever get really super famous, I can make sure that someone plays me in a movie is a lot more handsome than I am in real life. That'd be great.
Who played Patton?
But
Do you remember?
George C. Scott played Patton, and he's got a gravelly voice. It's not, people just assume that Patton did too, but Patton did not. And so, in fact, that's why he would swear so much, so much. And it was scandalous in the 40s how much he would swear. Nowadays, like, oh, he's just an average person in traffic, no big deal. Whatever. Now, would I recommend that for my kids? I have 3 boys myself, and we watch movies. I'm going to wait till they're a little bit older for Patton because, there's some scenes in there kind of rough or whatever, but soon, I guess. But you mentioned The Patriot. I absolutely watched The Patriot with my boys, and even that too, because it's Mel Gibson. He's a little bit too much into the violence and stuff like that. And I'll tell them like, okay, the British didn't really burn a whole bunch of civilians inside of a church. That's not
That
true.
scene
That
sticks
kind of
with
stuff.
you. Ugh.
It does stick with you because like that's not. There's horror and war, but that's not true. But it's a good movie. I like that, The Patriot, because it gets your children to positive values of patriotism, but also just that war is not just for the sake of killing. Like there's a purpose to it. Like Mel Gibson his character is a reluctant warrior. He would just as soon not be involved in war because he remembered what it was like in the French and Indian War, how violent and nasty that was. He doesn't want to fight. He's trying his best to resolve it peacefully. He's trying to appeal to the legislature, like, no, we don't want to fight. And then he's like, oh, you're a coward. It's like, no, it's because I know war, And then when he's pressed upon at the ultimate, like, no, we have to fight. He fights. And so I do like that. And it's ultimately, it's about his family. That's what it is. You're defending your family. You're defending your way of life. I do like that a lot. So that's a good one.
There should have been an Ask Erica question because Erica, you're quite the movie war film buff.
Whenever I feel sick, like the whole time I was pregnant, this time whenever I was feeling sick, I would go lie down and watch like a World War II movie. I don't know why. Like it just, I feel better watching other people's misery. But no, and I don't know if this counts as a movie, but my favorite war miniseries, Band of Brothers, we rewatched that this time when I was pregnant. I watch these things when I'm pregnant. We rewatched Band of Brothers. I love that. I love Damian Lewis, that the whole storyline there with his
Okay.
character. Oh, okay. We have
But
a
it is
challenge.
Ask Josh, number one.
Right.
And number two, if you like Band of Brothers, have you seen Masters of the Air?
Okay, we were just talking about
No, I
this.
haven't
No,
yet.
but I've heard good things.
Okay, I'm gonna go watch that. It's on
Now I would
Apple,
say to
right?
this mom, if again, there's I would just recommend like Common Sense Media as a resource to check any movie or video to see, because different parents will have different amounts of like violence or, the sex kind of stuff. Like in Masters of the Air, there's some innuendos, there's definitely some flirting, but and there is a scene or two that I would absolutely skip for sure. So I would not recommend it for someone who's 10 or 12 for sure. I would not. But when they get a little bit older, that there are some, you really feel these guys are heroes, like the kind of odds they went up against and that kind of stuff. So there's, again, I would not give that as a recommendation to someone who's 10 or 12 years old. There's definitely some inappropriate stuff, but
Did you guys ever watch the
noble effort.
Did you ever watch? I think it was the Ken Burns Civil War series. It was like
Oh my
8
goodness,
hours
yes.
long.
Yeah, I watched the
And
whole thing twice, probably.
I can't even remember if it was good or not. All I remember is that we had DVDs. So whenever we were on road trips, we had like a mobile DVD player. And
That's
we had
awesome.
those, and it was just like, well, we got an 8-hour drive ahead of us. Like, might as well pop in Ken Burns Civil War.
That's great.
You know what I
was it
like
good?
better
I
than
can't
that
even
though,
remember.
Tom?
What?
I liked, actually, surprisingly, I like the History Channel's miniseries on Ulysses Grant. Like, I was really surprised how
really?
good that was.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
awesome.
I've watched it 2-3 times. It's great.
All right.
I mean, here's a guy who wasn't sure about his life. He's kind of a drunk, and he gets into the army, and he's out in the middle of like Oregon or something like that, and he kind of trips himself into the Civil War, and Lincoln is trying his best to try to get leaders and generals to do stuff, and then he is just Midwest best man, just kicking butt, and Grant, just changed the war. He was amazing. And again, the biggest thing about like when it comes to war is you need to make sure, and this is why I like Patton as well, like he understood infantry, he understood like using tanks, and he was the only one who could, again, it's not trench warfare World War One. You have tanks, move, and his whole thing was to move fast. The same goes true for politics, actually. You need to make sure you're not. The biggest problem with war is you fight the last war's battle. You fight it the same way. And boy, oh boy, did Republicans do that for the better part of the 21st century. They keep fighting it like it's the 1980s and 90s. Like, guys, that's over. It's done. Like, these aren't just like, liberal Democrats who kind of like still love our country and there's a difference of opinion. Dude, they're coming for our throats. Like, AOC is markedly different than some Southern Democrat from 1982, okay? Like, she's a communist. I mean, she is. Like, that's what she is. Like, stop pretending like, oh, well, she's just one. Like, no. Dude, stop fighting the war like it's 1982. It's a different ballgame.
Amen. That was a great analogy.
Bam.
That like
you-
spoke to my heart. That's great.
Is it lame for me to say Saving Private Ryan too?
Yeah, that's lame.
All right.
Everybody
No,
says
it's
that.
not. It's just the thing about that. You know what? It's not for.
That's not for
younger
kids for sure.
No,
Yeah,
no.
most
Like
definitely.
one of the
But just
things
in
one of the
general.
selling points for Saving Private Ryan, people said it was so very realistic, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of one of the problems with it, because like World War
It's
II vets would
so
go watch
violent,
the movie
yeah.
and they would like have relapses, like
Yeah.
it would take it feel traumatic. It was that real, and
Yeah.
they were like, whoa. And so I'm always a little careful about that, because the whole point is, we have the ability now with cinema, with violence and obviously the sexual stuff, to make something extremely real. And it's like, okay, but like, what is the end point of entertainment?
Yeah. I would say like for kids, at the ages that she's describing, a good World War II movie would be like The Great Escape with Steve McQueen. because like it was made at an era where they're not going to show you all the gore and the horrible stuff, but you really get a sense of what it was like for these guys and the moral choices they were making in that camp. So that's a fun watch for sure. Steve McQueen, and you get to watch him on his motorcycle.
That's right. And the motorcycle scene was totally
Yeah,
Steve McQueen getting that
yeah,
in
that
the
was
movie, but
He
we'll
was like,
allow
"I'll
it.
do
Like-
the movie if I can ride the motorcycle."
But then you start to realize like how certain phrases come to be, because I remember I just said this like 2 weeks ago, like, yeah, every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And my wife goes, man, I haven't heard that in a long time. What is that from? I said, it's from The Great Escape. The tunnels they dug. There was the Tom, Dick, and Harry, the 3 tunnels they dug. They're just like, really?
Wow.
That's
Learn something new every day.
what it's from.
Yeah, Ask Josh is awesome. We learn all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Saving Private Ryan, and then similarly, I felt the same way with, it was the World War I movie based on the book, Erico. We talked about it.
Oh, All Quiet on the Western
All Quiet on
Front.
the Western
Yeah,
Front.
yeah,
Where-
it was so brutal.
Brutal, but I think they're,
Really
and
good.
similarly why that book was even banned in Germany during World War II, because it would be so, like, it describes war as what it is. Like, war is hell. And I think the movies that Josh is saying leave an impact. And like, what are you doing? Well, like if a movie's intent is basically, and which All Quiet on the Western Front is to basically describe the reality of war being hell, to not go in gung ho to be like, yeah, let's go start this war, like fire up, as sometimes the emotion starts flowing. It can serve that purpose. Obviously a child not ready for that, but I think there were works like that where sometimes it gets glorified. Like you look at like this, Captain America or whatever, like, okay, this is, it's all good fun. It's Marvel, whatever. Like there's a value to that. But at the same time, I think there is value to making things so realistic to the point where you're like, oh, I have an understanding what would happen if we go to bat with someone here.
I get
And
that,
so
but
we
like
can go
also the question is, what is the narrative? What is the overarching like premise of the movie, the story that's trying to be told? So for example, when I was growing up, MASH was on TV, right? From the late 70s to early 80s. And the purpose of that was, let's do, in the series, the show lasted on TV longer than the Korean War actually lasted. For us, I think it was like 16 years or whatever. It's on forever. It felt like not quite that long, but the final episode of MASH was like the number one rated show for like forever, for the longest time. But the purpose of that show was to like, okay, let's have some gallows humor, because it was it was a comedy in a sense, but then they would intermix that with, oh my gosh, like war is so dumb and pointless and has no purpose at all, and it's like the nihilism that show had. And in fact, the song and the whole point was like, this is what we think of the Vietnam War, even though it was the Korean War, right? I mean, everyone got that.
Right.
And the show song was "Suicide is Painless." Like, I mean, it just tells everything about it. It's like there's no, it's just pure nihilistic garbage. So
didn't we talk about the video game equivalent? What is that? It's like Helldivers. It's based on, it basically is a video game kind of mocking, like they're saying we're going to go fight for democracy, and they're sending people abroad to go crush bugs. Basically, it was like, for unity, for democracy.
Hey,
it's like kind of similar.
Now hold on. I mean, if it's basically a ripoff of Starship Troopers, that's pretty good.
It is. No, it is. It's basically a tongue-in-cheek Starship Troopers video game, similar. So anyway, we got to move on now to the Twilight Zone. Fun conversation. Thank you for your thoughts, Josh. Twilight Zone, we started with Erica. What do you have this week?
All right. You might be flying your American flag this weekend. A second Alito flag has hit the news. So if you might remember last week, Justice Samuel Alito's wife was outed, I guess, for possibly flying an American flag upside down around the January 6th riots time. And everyone was like, this is a sign that she was for insurrection, and Alito should recuse himself from every case from the Supreme Court ever.
That we don't like.
Again. Yeah. Okay, so that all blew up, and it turned out like it was, totally debunked as any kind of issue. But then this week, an intrepid photojournalist investigating for the New York Times captured photos of the flagpole outside of the Alito's Long Beach Island home. Flying in the wind were 3 flags: the Long Beach Island flag, a 2022 Phillies flag, embarrassing, and a white flag.
Hey, he's a Phillies fan. We're gonna allow it. We're gonna allow it.
And I think that's more just
that wasn't the one that they were upset
about.
about.
No. If Alito wants it, Alito can have it.
No. But here's his real crime. The third flag bore a green pine tree, and it is known as the Appeal to Heaven flag. This is one of those Revolutionary War era flags from the colonies. George Washington apparently flew it first in 1775 while we were intercepting British ships, and it has become a symbol of colonial strength and resilience. And so this hits the news that somehow this flag is outside of the Alito's home. And people are like, this is a sign that he is an ultra MAGA Christian white nationalist. He must be outed from the Supreme Court, recuse himself from all cases related to January 6th, of course, and on and on. This was just
the reason they're doing it
precious.
is because they said that this flag was seen in the Capitol during January 6th.
Yeah.
And so therefore there's no
Ergo.
history before that date in history. And so if anything appears there, it's now a symbol of all of the evil things that plague society right now.
Yeah, apparently. And coming from
And
the
this
same
is,
people.
Sorry,
No-
this isn't even just like little liberals. Like this is even just kind of like liberals on Twitter. Hakeem Jeffries is in front of the House saying that Samuel Alito is an insurrectionist and needs to be removed from the Supreme Court. Like,
You
this is
mean
the
the
highest
same-
levels of politics.
You mean the same Hakeem Jeffries who a few weeks ago was flying the Ukrainian flag on the House floor? Yeah, that guy? The one who wears a little lapel. Hakeem Jeffries who wears a lapel pin of the trans flag? That Hakeem Jeffries? Oh, give me going
Well,
on flags.
according to
Hakeem.
him, the trans flag is the U.S. flag, right?
Oh, right. I forgot. Oh, it's so maddening. So it was a tale of two flags. I think Alito's fine. But man, these people hate him. They just hate him
It's
so
like,
much.
well, let's go.
It's not
take
just that they hate
this.
Alito. It's like they kind of really hate our country, don't they?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because all the flags they take umbrage
Like,
with.
notice
are
the reaction
American
isn't.
flags.
Just hold on. Notice the reaction isn't, hey, wait a minute. I don't like that I saw these patriotic flags being misused in this riot. That's horrible. Those flags are for all of us. They're like, anytime they see that flag, they're like, yuck.
Not just that flag, Josh. The
Kind of
American
feels
flag.
like this says a lot more about you, right? I mean, they freak out every time they see the Gadsden flag. They freak out anytime they see the pine tree flag. Maybe the problem is them.
Yeah, remember, that
Maybe
kid. That kid got
remember the
suspended
Betsy
for wearing the Gadsden
Nike.
flag.
Remember that, Tom? Remember that Nike did the Betsy Ross flag that on the shoe, and they
Betsy
went
Ross
deep
flag is
over
sick.
this. I know.
The Betsy Ross flag is sick. Genuinely, it's so cool. We have
It's
some
almost like
sweet
these
flags.
people hate our country.
I know. It's like the only flags that are like popular. So according to the left right now, like you can burn the American flag and that's somehow some courageous act of protest. And then you can wave all these other countries' flags. It's like we've been colonized by countries smaller,
Right.
weaker, and less impressive
Palestinian
than us.
flag.
Palestinian
right?
flag,
Yeah.
Israel flag, Ukraine flag, like, and we're bankrolling all these people. And yet, like, it's more popular to wave those rather than flags that actually represent American courage and resilience, aka
Only the
Heaven
flags they force on the rest of us are okay, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the whole point is that the American flag is supposed to stand for all of us. Go back to Trump's rhetoric in that speech. It's like, we are all Americans. It stands for all of us. We can all come together instead of the divide deal. It's crazy. I think it should be illegal to fly any flag other than an American flag inside of a government building.
Hot take.
How's this even a hot take? This is America. I don't. When did this become a crazy thought that like,
No.
yeah, in America, you should fly American flags in American government buildings?
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I would allow the state flag as well, but yeah. I'm
Okay, yes, the state flags count too, but unless someone would hijack a state flag to make it super gay, so that this is the things that annoy me. But all right, Josh, your Twilight Zone flag talk is over.
Well, I mean, look, we can actually roll this if you want, this video. I mean, there's stand-up comic. He's got these kind of quirky bits, and I think they're kind of funny, but this one, he kind of responded to, I'm sure, a lot of boomers talking to him and saying, why aren't people having kids anymore?
All right.
All right,
Can we
roll
roll
it.
it?
I think we're muted top right. Yeah.
$300,000. It's the same reason I haven't bought a sapphire mine recently. It's just a tad too expensive. I don't want to spend money on a kid. I freeze my bread to make it last longer. I'm cheap. Look, it's not even a joke. It's just a good tip. I don't even spend the fake money I earn in video games. Here's a better question. Why did the people who had kids before choose to make it feel impossible to have kids now? And how can they help fix that? The closest I'm going to get to having kids is rewatching the first season of Stranger Things. But who's going to take care of you when you're old? I don't know. Probably an AI android with a voice just different enough from Scarlett Johansson's for it to be legal.
Fired. I mean, at least the guy's funny. I thought that was funny.
was
Okay.
funny.
And actually, I mean, I make this appeal to my fellow Gen Xers and then also to the baby boomers. There is something broken with the economy. So like this idea, like, I mean, it would be easy to go, well, maybe stop playing video games, you dorcas, and start working. But
that's not the conversation anymore.
We have created an economy where people feel they need to go to 4 years of college and get debt that's the size of a mortgage on a house, and then they have no idea what their career is going to be. I do feel like, you know, we need to change things up a little bit, make it a little bit better. Try to convince. Now, one thing is nice that Gen Z is, as Mike Rowe says, a little bit more the tool belt generation, and we're not like telling kids they're idiots if they decide to do something other than college. If they go the skills way. So, you know, we can make it better. I would just, you know, again, that's why I'm a big fan of Tim Carney's book, Family and Friendly. That's the solution to this guy.
He got it in
My
there. He got it
goodness.
in there.
Every episode.
I
I do freeze bread though.
Right, we freeze bread too. It
Okay.
lives in the fridge.
Glad
So
we're on the
good.
same page. Yeah,
Yeah,
freeze bread.
it's important. It's
I mean,
a
it doesn't
good
last long
parenting
enough in
tip.
my house to be frozen, man.
But
man.
hey, we do have a chapter in our book for God, Country, and Sanity. You want to hold that up again, Pogo? God, Country, and Sanity. We have a book on family policy and ways to perhaps expand the spaces in which Americans feel more able to have children. Thank you, Ivana Greco. Check it out.
Boom. All right, for my Twilight Zone, yeah, we're going over to medicine. I never had medical aspirations. I never wanted to become a doctor, but I do see doctors, so it's relevant to everyone who's ever seen a doctor will need to see a doctor. So pretty explosive whistleblowing report from the Washington Free Beacon. And I want to give Aaron Sabarium a shout out. He is a Gen Z investigative journalist, has done a phenomenal job on many subjects, one of them being DEI. So really shocking. We have from the headline, a failed medical school, how racial preferences supposedly outlawed in California have persisted at UCLA. So up to half of UCLA medical students now fail basic tests of medical competence, and whistleblowers from within the school are saying affirmative action illegal in California since 1996 is to blame. So just to lay out the story here, this all kind of starts in 2020 when UCLA hires this lady, Dr. Jennifer Lucero. She's the Dean of Admissions and Vice Chair of the DEI Office of Anesthesiology. So
What could go wrong?
Oh.
So we have from one whistleblower, and I just want to preface all of this. For you to basically, and UCLA is one of the most prestigious medical schools in the country, for you to whistleblow on your own university at threat of federal blowback is serious. So they're saying basically the only way that something will be done is if we embarrass our university. It has to be done. It's this bad. So she gets hired, and one whistleblower said, "We want racial diversity so badly, we're willing to cut corners to get it." There's some individual stories where it's eye-popping. Like, this is just an obvious violation of affirmative action. So I have an example here. When an admissions officer voiced a concern about a candidate, the two people said the Dean of Admissions, Jennifer Lucero, exploded in anger. Did you not know African-American women are dying at a higher rate than anyone else? Lucero asked admissions officer. These people said, the candidate scores shouldn't matter. She continued, because we need people like this in medical school. So essentially what's happened under her reign is lowering the requirements so low. I think we have lowering the standards for people that are not white or Asian. And so the standards are, quote, as low as you could possibly imagine for underrepresented minorities. And so some things have happened, okay? So this test, they're called shelf tests, and basically people are not passing these shelf tests at record rates in UCLA. And we're talking about, they were ranked 6th in the country, U.S. News World Report. They've dropped to 18th recently. And so we have the diversity
That's like
focus
a
has led,
collapse.
total
Oh my
collapse, has
gosh.
led to the number of Asian matriculates falling by over a third between 2019 and 2022. According to publicly available data, no other elite medical school in California saw a similar decline. Some examples of courses that they have to take are one called Structural Racism and Health Equity. It covers topics like fat phobia. So yeah, on
You know,
those
and that's the thing.
if I could finish though, on that shelf test, so 50% failure rate, 5% of students fail each test nationally. So we have up to a 50% rate at this UCLA school over the last 3 years. 5% fail these nationally at the medical schools. So we're talking about,
Wow.
I mean, obviously setting up people not for success. This is one of the most prestigious and hardest to get into medical schools in the country. Obviously, things are going to be pretty challenging. And when you're putting students there based on their race, not their merit or ability, they're set up to fail.
Exactly.
And this isn't like this is a underwater basket weaving degree where they're going to go off and goof around, maybe an art degree or something, not really have people's lives at stake. We're talking about doctors. Like we're talking about your future surgeons, your future anesthesiologists, just getting passed through a system that they're clearly not set up to go and succeed in, all for the sake of, patting people on the back for being diverse is just unbelievable. Like we're talking about, it'd be like if you're a pilot, and we're having problems with this too. Like if your pilot doesn't know what they're doing, like there's lives at stake here, literally. So DEI kind of all fun and games until it's happening, but really shocking report here from UCLA's medical school. Crazy.
So, and again, with affirmative action, at least the ostensive purpose of it, right, was if you have two well-qualified candidates, all things being equal, test scores are similar, maybe you take the minority person because in the past, some injustice or whatever, it never ends up working out that way. So that's why the voters in California voted to abolish, affirmative action. But what has happened since then? Well, if you want to apply to any of these schools in California, these state schools that officially affirmative action is illegal to consider race, they make you do a video. And you have to do a video of yourself, a video essay, and then they get to see, oh, white guy, oh, Asian, nah, never mind, nah. And I make the call again. I mean, I'm going to be some entrepreneur here on this, but like, when is it going to be the case where Asians are going to step up and say, we're sick of this? And because Jews felt like they were discriminated against in higher education for a long time, and so they created their own universities. And blacks felt like they were shut out, so they created historically black colleges or whatever. Why don't Asians do this? And I mean, and then the white people go, okay, it's going to look kind of weird if we create white-only schools, even though
no one's here for that.
Apply to yours. And the Asians like, okay, but we won't lower your standards.
And I think I've pushed you on this, Josh. I think the solution is removing race bait deans from schools. Like these people.
Oh,
should
I
be
agree. I
removed.
mean, that's what they're
doing is
doing in
illegal.
Florida with.
They should be charged, and they should be
Ron
outed
DeSantis.
publicly as racist. That's what they are.
Imagine a Trump DOJ going after the UCLA medical school for this. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be actually enforcing the law. But
Right? It's like
Right, 'cause-
hilarious. We
I
got
mean,
this tongue in
why-
cheek.
What's the point of having a Civil Rights Act of 1964 if you
Exactly.
can just get away with this kind of garbage?
Exactly.
the point of the Civil Rights Act was so that we could create this exact situation down the road. It was to create this vast bureaucracy and to populate it with people on these admissions committees who would give preference to people because of their race, even if they can't meet the metrics. That was the point of the
Right.
Civil Rights Act.
Here's
So when it
another
comes
example.
to DEI, again, I agree with you. It's like the purpose of the system is what it does.
It's hard
100%.
to overstate like how crazy this lady is. Like here's another example. She's lashed out at officials who question the qualifications of minority candidates. 5 sources said, suggesting naysayers are, quote, privileged, implying that they are racist, and subjecting them to diversity training sessions. After a Native American applicant was rejected in 2021, for example, Lucero chewed out the committee and made members sit through a 2-hour lecture on Native history delivered by her own sister, according to 3 people familiar with the incident. No applicants were reviewed that day. An official present for the lecture set.
And this is a university subsidized by taxpayer dollars.
Right. And it's not like these people just
UCLA.
operate in a bubble. They get a lot of taxpayer money
Oh my gosh.
to openly be racist to future doctors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They started this reforming the colleges in Florida, and now Greg Abbott's making some important steps in Texas as well. We need this to happen, guys, because You might think you live in a red state or something like that, and oh yeah, no, the state universities in your state are garbage unless you're actually taking the time to clean out the garbage. It's
Yeah.
going to be terrible. Yeah, I mean, is there DEI at a university in Idaho? I bet there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, I guess the broad point in all this is people have kind of allowed themselves to be bullied by bad faith actors and race baiters. Basically, them saying, what do you have against diversity? What do you have against inclusion? Yada, yada, yada. And well-meaning people, I'm sure, kind of just bowled over like, oh, no, yeah, that sounds kind of good. That sounds kind of good. And we're getting to the point where it's like, well, you should have never been bullied by these people because this is the end game here. And so it's more stories like this are making it easier, I think, for the average person, even like Christians I've heard thrown around these circles, to just say, no, I'm against it because it's racist and it's wrong and it's not going to lead to the best for society at large.
And by the way, it's not helping people.
No, it's not helping anyone.
Like, how does it help? How is it helpful to get admitted into a program
You're not
that
qualified
you
for
wouldn't
it.
be good at? I mean, I'm not good enough to get into a UCLA medical school. So, like, it's not doing me any favors to go to a school. And we always focus on the admissions. Like, how about you focus on the graduation rates and then also your competency? Like, shouldn't that matter?
No, that's racist.
Yeah.
So this is the game.
Oh, okay.
John, if you're not aware, that's the game going on right now. But I definitely would not want you as my surgeon, all due respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next time I walk into a
I have
doctor's
great
office.
bedside manners, though.
Yeah,
I should be a
check.
nurse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh is a male nurse is a funny thought.
Yeah, we're all going to start checking the, you know how they hang their diplomas on the wall in the medical offices? You see UCLA on there and you're like,
What year did you graduate?
Yeah.
Totally. All right, and that does it for the show. So a few housekeeping notes. We are not going to have a show on Memorial Day. Shout out to all the troops. Thank you so much for your service. If you're a veteran listening to this, we appreciate
it's
you.
not Veterans Day, though.
Memorial Day is for the country, though. So they're part of it.
Memorial Day is for those who died in battle.
Yeah, but, you know.
maybe the
are part of
veterans
that.
know someone who
So
died?
we think about the
All right,
people
Josh,
who-
you want to play semantics? All right, thank you to
That's
everyone
not
who's died for our
semantics.
country and for people who have
It's
served our
not
country. They
semantics.
can get thanked too.
No, that's for Veterans Day, bro. Sorry.
I'll sneak thank you behind closed doors to the veterans, but especially those who've died for the country, of course. Don't want to make light of that. It's a serious sacrifice. And it's the only reason we're able to be here doing what we do now. So thank you for that sacrifice. So we will not be doing a show on Monday. We will be back again Wednesday. If you want to help out the program, subscribe here on YouTube, like the episode, share us around. If you want to help us out with ratings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, head over there, give us 5 stars. Check out our book on the website, God, Country, and Sanity. You can
Let
grab
me
that on
leave
the
you with
CatholicVote
one little
website.
story, though, Tom, because you
Yep.
mentioned about service.
Okay.
I was on a field trip with my boy earlier this week, and we stopped at the National Shrine across in the woods, and we had just about 30 minutes left, and all of a sudden, 7 Vietnamese men come in, a bishop, 4 priests, and 2 seminarians, and the guy gets up there and goes, in northern Vietnam, it's still a communist country, and they don't have the right to openly practice their faith. It was just so cool, and they're like, they're like, we're going to celebrate Mass, and the teacher and all the kids are like, yeah, let's go. And so
Wow.
we got to hear the Mass in Vietnamese. It was so cool. And then afterwards they get done and they got to hurry. They're going to go to Mackinac Island. It was kind of neat. And I came up to the one priest who's sort of organizing this whole event. And I said, my dad served in Da Nang. It's a city in the northern part of South Vietnam. And the priest looked at me and said, is your father still alive? I said, yes. He goes, you be sure to thank him for me.
Oh,
That's cool.
That's how much this guy
Wow.
hated communists. It was so cool.
that's awesome.
You got it, buddy. So I always, make sure when I see veterans, I thank them for their service or whatever. But when you see a veteran, they're gonna probably say on Memorial Day, no, actually, they're gonna be thinking about the men that were lost, and they want that day to be for that. I'm not trying to be semantic with you. If you have a chance to visit, a grave site where you can see some of the brave men and women who fought and paid the ultimate price, it was initially called Decoration Day because so many Civil War veterans died, and people wanted to remember it, and they would decorate their graves. We should remember it. It's more than just a barbecue day. So make
Come
sure
on,
to thank
Catholics.
those people who paid the ultimate price.
Yeah.
Amen.
And as Catholics, that's something we can do because we pray for the dead, even if the rest of the country doesn't. So
Word.
it's a big day for Catholics.
Amen to that.
Mhm.
So pray for us. We're praying for you. St. Thomas More, Our Lady of Guadalupe. And Saint Fidelis, pray for us. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Have a great weekend.